Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Thank you.
My name is Shakeel. I'm an accountant in a small firm of accountants in West London. I've got 30 years of experience, and I'm here to talk about COVID-19 and the financial support available from the government. There is a lot of support available, and there's a lot of websites, government sites, which give a lot of information on this. But if there's anything specific that anyone needs to know, they really need to contact their accountant, who will be able to put them in touch. Or
oh, I think we might have lost you there.
Or to you, then ultimately the catch-all is the universal credit system. And if people are suffering or don't have any source of income or unable to pay their way, then they need to make contact with the HMRC through the Universal Credit Scheme and register there to try and get assistance with housing benefit, with other benefits, unemployment and so forth. The important thing is that you need to take advice wherever possible on this. And the important thing here is really to ensure that cash flow is the key to running a business. Cash flow is what's going to keep you going over the next few months. And therefore, the advice is that you try and get assistance from the government wherever possible using their schemes. The important thing, first of all, is to try and minimize costs. And that can come from deferring tax payments, which are available. Any VAT that needs to be paid can be deferred until the 30th of June. Any self-assessment tax liabilities that are due at the end of July can be delayed until the 31st of January. So again, that's going to help with cash flow. And then there are other ways that you can help if you are involved in the retail or in the hospitality trade. Then there is assistance with business rates being cancelled for this coming tax year, or the possibility of a free grant being given to you by the government, which comes from the local council. The councils will be in touch with yourselves. If not, you need to speak to the council and see if you can make an application. Grants of up to £25,000 are payable, although smaller businesses will get £10,000 if they're on the list of approved businesses. The other thing that you can then do for businesses is, if you're employing employees, is to take advantage of what's called a job retention scheme, which is where if you have staff that you would ordinarily have made redundant, you can furlough them. And this means that they cannot work for you, but they can go home. Well, obviously they're at home anyway, and they sit there and wait until their furlough ends. During this period, the government is prepared to help with up to 80% of their salary and tax and pensions payments based on the February payroll. So whatever's being paid in February, the government will give up to 80%, and this is something that you have to make a claim for. This, again, can be assisted through your accountant, and there's a portal being written by the HMRC which will allow businesses to join and receive these funds. The rule is that if it's not done by the end of March, you would still have to pay them, and you're not meant to wait until the grant arrives. So again, cash flow is key to this. The next way of helping businesses is through people who are self-employed, and that might apply to taxi drivers and other consultants and so forth. If you are self-employed, then you can, based on your 18-19 tax return where you showed self-employed income, you can actually ask for up to 80% of your previous year's earnings to be given to you as a lump sum, as long as your business continues to work. You can, in this case, continue to work as well if you are able to, and you will still receive the grant. And this is applicable to sole traders and partnerships. So if you are a taxi driver and you have a certain amount of income for last year, there are limits up to £50,000, and if you go over that, then literally you get nothing if you go over by £1. So again, speak to your accountant, but this scheme cannot be joined until June. So there's a bit of time now where you can research this before then. The next bit of help is where, again, in universal credit, this is a scheme which replaced all the other types of benefits and brought it into one, where you can join online. I believe that over 1 million people joined it in the last month. And if you are able to join, then they will give you an appointment to talk to someone who will then assess you. And it is an assessment between husband and wife to see what your overall income in the house is. And they will base their payment based on that, and could have an impact on how much savings you have as well. Ultimately, this is the catch-all for everybody. If you have no other source of help and are suffering as a result of your business having to stop for the time being. The next way that businesses can be helped is if they are in real need of loans and so forth, where they can receive loans from the banks at interest-free for up to a year and so forth. To do this, you really need to be in touch with your bank manager or relationship manager, who will be able to tell you what they can offer. All banks are being asked to be fair in this instance and to pay to give loans of up to a guarantee of 80% from the government. Small businesses are not expected to have to give personal guarantees, so it's better to try and go through this scheme, but there are a lot of requirements, and they will need to see perhaps what your projections might be going forward and so forth. There are a lot of banks that are part of this and are accredited to this scheme, and there's a link on this page where you can actually contact banks to see if they can assist in this way. The other thing to remember is that if you are just a husband and wife company where you have very little by way of salary, you may still be able to be furloughed, which means you may still be able to get 80% of your income from your salary element. But those with dividends are not covered by any of these schemes. Again, I would advise that you speak to your accountants to see if they can give you any advice and the best way to do this. They can also help with the furlough scheme in terms of registering you and applying for the 80% grant, and they can also help with the self-employed scheme to allow you to register in June when that becomes available, and possibly will be needed for cash flow projections perhaps, and accounts and so forth, information that will needed to be provided to the banks if loans and so forth are to be made available. I think that's it for now, and stay home, stay safe, help the NHS, and speak to you soon.
Thank you so much, Brother Shakeel. And I would just like to reiterate that all of the resources that Brother Shakeel has mentioned, as well as the other resources that we've mentioned on this call today, are available on the MCB website, which is mcb.org.uk/coronavirus. And on there are also ways in which you can stay in touch with the MCB and our coronavirus updates.